And today we're going to interview Paul Velasquez. He's a trust and probate attorney who's going to answer lots of questions that we have. We're going to talk about how a living trust is going to protect your family, how it's going to save you money, and how it's going to protect your kids. Thank you so much, Paul, for having me here and ask you all these questions that all my clients ask me all the time. And so tell me, how long have you been doing this, Paul?
So I've been an attorney for 23 years. 23 years, and my practice focuses exclusively on what we're going to be talking about today. So estate planning, probate, and trust law.
Okay. So tell me, what is the difference between a trust and a will?
So what's important to know first, before we talk about differences between trust and will, is what we're talking about. What is the importance of doing something and having something in place, having documents in place? Because the reality is that when most people don't do anything, most people do no planning whatsoever for their death or for their eventual demise. And so what ends up happening is somebody passes away, they have property in their name, assets in their name, and before it gets to their heirs or their beneficiaries, their children, their grandchildren, it's got to go through a court process. If they have done no planning, it's going to go through a court process, and that process is called probate. It's a very long process. It takes more than a year to go through in most cases, and it's very expensive. So the idea behind what I do is I try to meet with families to have a plan in place to avoid that process. And so the main document that people use for that is a living trust, right? A living trust is simply a document that is like a will. It's a will substitute, but it's a document that expresses your wishes about where your property will go when you pass away. The difference between a will and a trust, the main difference, is that wills are subject to probate. So remember that process that I said you're going to go through if you don't do any planning? Well, even if you do some planning, but all you do is a will, your family will still have to go through the probate process. So that will has to go through probate, be approved by the court, and then eventually the property will be distributed according to the terms of the will. But we want to avoid that process altogether. And the only way to do that is to have a living trust. So a living trust in that sense is a will substitute. It does the same thing as a will, allows you to name the people that you want to inherit from you, but does it in a way that allows you to avoid probate.
Okay, so once a client buys a property, when is a good time to get a will? A trust, excuse me.
So a good time to do estate planning really is anytime you have assets. And really what you said was accurate. Once you own real estate, that's really the important time to have a trust, because when you pass away with real estate property in your name, if it's not held in a living trust, if instead title is held in your individual name, it's going to go through the probate process before your children or your family gets any part of that. So it's important that when you have property, when you buy real estate, that it's held in a living trust. So that's probably a good time to get a trust.
Okay, another question that a client sent me yesterday was how did they save money when they have a trust?
How do they save money?
Yes.
Oh, well, look, probate is that process I was telling you about. Not only does it take a year or year and a half to go through, depending on the circumstances, it's also very expensive to go through probate. The probate fees, attorney's fees, fees for the executor, the person the court appoints to have control over the estate, the court fees, filing fees, publication fees, court appraisal fees, all of those fees add up. And those fees, I'll give you an idea. If all you own is a home, and that home is valued at, say, $500,000, and it doesn't matter whether you have a mortgage against it or not, if you have a home that's valued at $500,000, the attorney's fees for that is $13,000. That's what it's going to cost your family. The executor gets the exact same fee, that's another $13,000. And then there's about $4,000 or $5,000 in court costs. So it's over $30,000 just to probate a home. And because it's based on a sliding scale, the larger the estate, the more assets you have, the higher the fees. So that's what we're trying to avoid, is those costs. As opposed to the cost of setting up a living trust, for example, doing an estate plan. It's night and day. The difference is huge.
It's unbelievable.
That's
Unbelievable the amount of money that they can save.
That's correct.
How many beneficiaries can a client add to the trust?
So the beneficiaries are really unlimited, right?
Okay.
You can really, you get to decide. When you set up an estate plan, you do a will or a trust, you get to decide who your beneficiaries are. These are your assets. In fact, it's the only time you get to decide who inherits from you. Because if you don't do anything, and most people do nothing, so most people die without a will or a trust. So when you do nothing, the state of California gets to decide who your beneficiaries are. You don't get to choose them because you didn't do any planning. So in the probate code, it says when somebody dies without a will or a trust, these are the people who will inherit from you. Now, it may or may not be the people that you would have chosen, but why would anybody leave that up to the state of California? Only you get to decide that. And once you do your trust, you get to name the people that was going to be your children, your grandchildren, other relatives or people who are important to you. You get to decide that. It can be limitless. You can even include your estate planning attorney in your trust.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yes.
And how long does it take to create a living trust?
So the circumstances are this. This is the process. We meet with clients initially. We take information. We gather information about their family and their financial circumstances. We then explain to them the process. What's the importance of doing a trust? What are the things that you have to do? What does it include? What are the documents? And then based on their family and financial circumstances, we recommend a plan for them. And then it typically takes from that time about 6 weeks to put all those documents together. So we schedule a time for them to come back in 6 weeks. We review all the documents and prepare it based on their circumstances and based on what they desire. And then we ensure that those documents reflect what their wishes are, and that's when they sign all the documents. So from beginning to end, it's about a 6-week process.
Oh, okay. So 6 weeks. That's a pretty quick
No,
process.
It's very quick. And most people have been waiting for, 50,
All their
60
lives.
years, exactly,
I
to
know.
do anything.
I have several clients, as a matter of fact, I was talking to a few this past week. They've been homeowners for years, and they don't even know what a trust was.
That's correct.
So
Most
I
people
invite them to this interview, and I tell them all about you, and they're gonna call you very soon.
Very good. Well,
Because he's the best.
Thank you.
And how much does it cost, Paul, to get a living trust?
So the good news is that there would be, because of this interview, there would be no cost for anybody to call. So anybody who calls and mentions this interview,
Thank you.
there will be no initial cost to meet with me. I'd be happy to meet with somebody for an hour, hour and a half, go over their situation, and then explain, as I said, the process, give them a recommendation for their particular circumstances. There will be no charge for that. But the cost for doing an estate plan really depends on their situation. An average cost for a single person, somebody who's not married, is $2,500.
Okay.
And for a married couple, is about $2,900.
Okay.
And that includes all the documents. It's not just a trust. There are many other documents that go along with the trust. You have to have a will, power of attorney, advanced healthcare directive, HIPAA releases. So there are a number of documents that have to be prepared that make up a comprehensive estate plan.
Okay, well, now we know that if you call Paul, if you need to get a trust, there's no initial consultation fee because he's going to waive that since we're doing this interview. So thank you so much for doing
Yes,
that for
you're
my
welcome.
clients. If my clients decide to do a living trust, which I hope every single person that is watching this video call Paul for a living trust, what's the best number to call you?
So the best number to call would be our main office, which is Long Beach. So we have 3 offices and we can meet at any location. We have offices in Long Beach, Downey, and Irvine. The best number to call is 562-432-5541. And they can speak with our receptionists. Our staff are very helpful. They'll take all the information that's necessary, and then they'll schedule an appointment to meet with me.
Is this your only office, Paul?
No, I do have offices also in Downey and in Irvine. We have staff. There's about 25 people in the firm total. There's 7 attorneys, and all of us are dedicated exclusively to trust work, to estate planning, probate, and trust law. So whether they meet with me or any of my other competent attorneys and staff, they'll be getting the highest quality service.
Okay. Another thing that I like about Paul is that he's bilingual. So if
Yes.
si usted habla español, Paul habla español.
Oh,
right?
perfectamente, sí.
Así de que he speaks Spanish as well. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call Paul and ask all the questions and get a trust, protect your family. And once again, Paul, thank you so much for having me here
My pleasure.
and for your time and all this valuable information you provide today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
So
Thank
once again, your phone number?
562-432-5541.
And this is Liliana Villatoro, your realtor, Homes by Liliana. You guys have a great day. Thank you.